Fortnite OG's lore just took a really unexpected shift, you guys, and Fortnite may have literally just tricked every single one of us. So in my last video about OG lore, you guys, I talked a lot about how it kind of felt like Fortnite had completely abandoned the whole red cube storyline. Like they just completely flipped a switch and turned it off out of nowhere. The cube turned back to purple, the runes were all purple, the red energy was just about completely gone besides for the Havoc stones, and even then it just made it even more confusing because they gave you nitro. And it felt like all the buildup, the red butterfly, the sideways rift, the red moon was just being thrown away like it was nothing. But now I actually think I may have been wrong about that. There's a ton of new stuff pointing to the red storyline still actually being active right now on the OG map. And not only that, it might be leading to something a lot bigger than we thought, and actually reinforcing that OG is a part of a lot bigger plan that connects every single one of the game modes. So in this video, we're going to break all of that down, all of the little clues, the theories, and why I think we might actually see the red cube return as soon as this week. So first off, you guys, let's start with where we are right now. Now, the cube is still purple, of course. The runes are still purple as well. The map has definitely shifted back to OG Chapter 1 Season 6 vibes in totality. And in terms of the gameplay, I know this isn't related, but this is actually some of the most fun I've had on OG for a long time. But the fact that OG Season 6 feels a lot like how it did originally may be exactly the point. A lot of people think that the cube being back to purple is very purposeful. Same with the runes, same with the red cubes inside of the Loot Island, which we will talk about later. I know a lot of people were mentioning in my comments section that the cube being purple, there may actually not be a lore implication with it or an explanation that has to do with the storyline. A lot of people were thinking that Epic Games maybe just got lazy and just copy and pasted the floating island in the cube from creative into OG, but I really don't think that's the case at all. I think this actually may be connected to the storyline. Even the lack of red energy in most spots is on purpose in my opinion, which to me really sounds like they're setting up a huge twist that not a lot of us expected at all. The red storyline might not be over. We could just be in like the calm before the storm phase right now, which is something that we've actually heard in the regular BR mode from NPCs as well. Like they're pulling us back into like a false sense of OG nostalgia before flipping it once again for Fortnitemares, which is coming up very soon. Now, what exactly is going on inside of the floating island? Because this is where stuff gets really, really weird. If you guys don't know, and if you haven't played since OG Season 6 came out, you wouldn't know that the floating island has actually began moving around, and it's going to move from rune to rune and start pulling these up like they are here. As you can see, a little bit of the land came along with it, and what it's doing is the cube is harnessing its energy that it left before, so that it become like kind of infect the island or take the energy from the island that it's kind of seeped up already and taking up as much energy as it can. Now, back in Chapter 1 Season 6, you guys, the infestation of the cube didn't just stop with the island itself. It actually started to infect the house that was on top of the floating island, with these little cubes slowly infesting and growing throughout the house and throughout the lower half of the like area there as well, until the very end of the season when it was completely taken over. And that same thing is happening now, and we talked about this in my last video, but they're actually red cubes now. Not all of them are red, just a few of them are, and that's not just a fun Easter egg. That's straight up hinting at the return of the red version of Kevin. If you remember from earlier this season when the cube was red, it printed red runes. It also turned the moon red and even corrupted Loot Lake. So red is kind of obviously its calling card. Just like with the purple cube, purple is its calling card. Seeing the red cubes returning now, even just inside of this, especially in such a subtle way, feels like they're slowly creeping that energy back in. And there has to be a reason for it switching back to purple lore-wise. And now that the island, of course, like I said, is starting to pull runes again out from the ground, just like in the original OG Season 6, it makes a lot of sense. But something that wasn't calculated, that I absolutely was not expecting, is that there's this strange kind of reddish pink rift energy beneath the piece that got lifted that wasn't there before, and that is a big part of this theory that I'm going to talk about soon. Now, what if when the red cube originally melted into the lake, some of that red energy just leaked underground and spread throughout the OG map? So now every time the island lifts a rune up from underground, it's pulling up that residual red power with it. That would explain exactly why the cube turned back to purple, because if you mix red with the blue that was in Loot Lake, you would get a purple cube. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. You know, maybe not all of the red stuff went under the map. Maybe some of it stayed with the cube and made it purple. I think that's a really, really good explanation. Now that weird red glow that we saw at the bottom of the rune piece, that could be the energy slowly seeping back in, and maybe that's why the red cubes inside the house are starting to form and are red instead of purple. The cube is literally recharging off of that energy. Even if it doesn't look like it from the outside, of course, the actual cube itself is staying purple. The ones inside of it, maybe deeper inside of the cube, is slowly turning back to red, which is what making the little cubes red as well. We could be seeing the red version of Kevin rebuilding himself right in front of us without us realizing yet, and I think that's actually really cool. Now, one of my personal theories is that Fortnitemares could actually be the trigger for Kevin turning back to red again. Another reason I think this red storyline isn't over is because Fortnitemares starts in literally just 3 days, you guys. This is going to be one of the biggest Fortnitemares we've ever seen on the 9th, and there are already red themes popping up in the promo art and teasers. The main skin, which is going to be the Mother of Thorns, which is rumored to be a Doja Cat icon skin, has this deep red and black aesthetic that fits like the darker tone perfectly. And Fortnite has been working hard lately, and we've seen throughout the lore that they've been trying to tie all of the different game modes together lore-wise, with BR, even Blitz, Reload, and OG, of course, with, different things rifting throughout each of those modes. If they're still working to make everything feel more unified and like it all connects, it would make so much sense to bring the red cube and corruption energy back in full force during Fortnitemares. And I think actually the little red cubes, the Havoc Stones that are around these runes, is a great hint towards that. It goes to show that that energy is still there at those runes. And when you actually think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the red cube returns very soon, like as soon as Fortnitemares starts, as some kind of like maybe mini in-game event or lore shift or something like that. Maybe even during the butterfly event later on that's been teased. It may not be exactly when Fortnitemares is, depending on when they're having the butterfly event. I think that would make a lot of sense and be really cool to continue that storyline. Overall, you guys, these theories going around about Kevin turning back into Revan are absolutely wild, but it actually makes a lot of sense when you sit and think about it. We know that Revan created the red runes, and now Kevin is absorbing power from them. If Kevin is kind of like syncing up with those runes, the red corruption could be changing the cube from the inside out again. We also know that the little cubes inside of Loot Island are turning red again. That could mean Kevin isn't just turning to red, he might literally be morphing into Revan, or maybe even a new version of him that's even darker than before. That would be an absolutely crazy twist, and one that would totally validate all the red lore buildup from earlier this season. Now, I know in my last video, you guys, I was kind of harsh on the story and how confusing it's been lately with OG, and a lot of people felt the same way, like the story had just been abandoned or dropped or whatever. But after looking at all of this stuff more, I don't think that the red storyline is over. I think we're midway through it right now, and it's about to get a lot crazier. It honestly feels too intentional. The red elements haven't completely disappeared, which if they were going to make it fully OG like it was back in the day, why would they keep the Havoc Stones and not just give us the Shadow Stones? I feel like a lot of the red elements have just been buried literally like underneath the map, and I'm really hoping that Epic pulls the trigger on this soon, because if they just leave all of this unresolved, it's gonna feel like such a waste of potential in my opinion. But right now, I'm starting to feel like this was part of a bigger plan all along. This is not the end, you guys. We just have to give time for Fortnite's writers to let their story unfold. All signs point to something way bigger going on literally under the surface of OG, and this might just be the halfway point. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you guys think I'm just looking too far into this, or what are your theories about how Revan will return to the storyline? Let me know. Drop a like on today's video. You watched all the way to the end. You must have enjoyed, so drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code PROZEROYT, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.